All right, Bulls Nation. I know it's late, but we got a deal for the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls have made their first official free agent move, which is that they have signed Andre Drummond to a 2-year deal, $6.6 million. Kind of waited all day for this one. I also got on my bed to make this video. I know it's late, but hear me out on this one. I have to say, I will be giving you my opinion. I don't know if you can read it on my face. I'm definitely not too thrilled with this move by the Bulls, but I will play both sides, kind of talk about both sides. I'll talk about the mid-level exception, and also I want to talk about Gallinari here at the end as well, as the Bulls seem to be interested in him. But before we get into it all, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I really, really appreciate it. So, the Bulls have got their backup center. Andre Drummond is officially, or at least has verbally agreed to be a Chicago Bull. 2-year deal, $6.6 million. Player option for the second season. So this is something, I guess, that the Bulls like to do with backup centers, because as we know, Tony Bradley also had a player option for his second season. But, this is definitely an interesting move. I'd say it's definitely not the move that I wanted. I'll say that. For me, the backup big that I wanted the Bulls to target was Isaiah Hartenstein, as I showed in my previous video. But obviously, we saw Isaiah Hartenstein immediately go to the New York Knicks, and I find it funny that happened because a lot of people were saying that Hartenstein was going to get the full mid-level exception, which he didn't. But it was a 2-year deal, $16 million, and I will say I was a little irked by that deal. But if the Bulls do get Gallinari, I won't be too upset with that Isaiah Hartenstein deal. But anyway, for Drummond, I'm going to play both sides here with this, and I'm also going to try to, be patient. I'm definitely not too happy with the Reinsdorfs currently, but it does kind of look like they might use their full mid-level exception, which kind of actually is like that might be good because they're actually going to pay the tax, but they can also avoid it very easily if they just trade one player away. So we'll see. But this deal for Drummond, it's going to be part of the mid-level exception from the Bulls. And the Bulls had the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which is $10.5 million or around there. And this deal is going to be a part of that. At the bare minimum, it's going to be $3.2 million out of the mid-level exception for this season. So the Bulls, they look like they're going to be hard capped at the tax apron, which is around $157 million, right? Because they're probably going to use their full mid-level exception. If you use more than the taxpayer mid-level, you are hard capped at the tax apron. So for the Bulls, it looks like they're going to use the mid-level exception on Drummond and Danilo Gallinari. Now, for Drummond, I will say that he has excelled, or I shouldn't say excelled. He has done pretty decent in a backup role for multiple teams. You look at his time with the Lakers as the backup role. I think, people kind of hated him a little too much on the Lakers, but I actually think he was pretty okay on the Lakers. And then obviously in Philly, he backed up Embiid for a little bit, and I think he did a pretty decent job backing up Embiid. So he's obviously going to be the backup for Vucevic, and he's obviously an upgrade over Tony Bradley. He's an upgrade over Tristan Thompson. For people saying that he's worse than Tristan Thompson, I will respectfully disagree with you on that one. But I do have some more negative thoughts I want to get out of the way here before I kind of turn it to the positive side here. What Drummond doesn't bring is obviously a rim protector, and Mark Eversley and AK have said that they're looking to add rim protection, and so far, at least what we're seeing, whether it's a move with Gallinari or signing Andre Drummond, neither of those are bringing rim protection. Neither of them are defenders, so that is a concern for me currently. Drummond is also a guy that you can't really switch with. He is very, very slow-footed. So it honestly just seems to me like you're just going to have the same defensive issues that you have with Vooch. So it definitely looks like the Bulls are investing in perimeter defense right now, which I will say it's not a horrible option. It's just that I think when you have a liability on the back end, it can become a problem. So that's my negative thoughts. The other negative thought is this. This is the part that I'm definitely not too happy about, is that the Bulls had to use part of their mid-level exception because they gave Drummond more than the veteran minimum. And as you see here, if the Bulls gave him the minimum, it just would have been $600K less. Now, I don't know what the market is for Drummond. It clearly was pretty low, but I guess the Bulls definitely really wanted Drummond to be here, so they were willing to pay the extra $600K and take on that little bit of money and that hit towards their mid-level exception. The other part that bothers me is this. The Bulls used their biannual exception on Tristan Thompson to get Tristan Thompson here this past season. And if the Bulls just had the biannual exception, which is about $4 million, Drummond fits right into that. And they wouldn't have to burn part of their mid-level exception for Drummond. Now, obviously, if they used the full if they had the biannual and they used the full mid-level, then they would definitely be in the tax, which that's a whole nother story for another day. But it definitely looks like Jerry Reinsdorf doesn't want to be in the tax, and that's not. I'm as a White Sox fan and a Bulls fan, I'm very upset about that, and I'll leave it there. So I'm gonna switch it over to the positive side because right now for me, I'm trying to be patient with this Bulls team. This looks like they're making two moves. This front office has emphasized continuity, and I think Bulls fans kind of all thought that maybe there will be a kind of a big move happening, which I don't know why. So I think I'm being a little bit more realistic than some Bulls fans right now because there wasn't going to be a change to the starting lineup. There wasn't going to be a change to the main two guys off the bench. Obviously you bring in Dale and Terry, but the main thing that the Bulls were looking to do was add depth and bring in better bench players. And so far, I will say they've done that. And they've emphasized continuity. They're going to have continuity with these moves. And Drummond brings depth to the center position, which they just did not have last season. So that's a plus. Now, here is the other argument I will make for the plus side of this deal. It is pretty cheap. Now, yes, it did cut into the mid-level exception. I'm aware. It is a pretty cheap deal, though, because Isaiah Hartenstein, for example, got $8 million annually. Mo Bamba got $10 million, a little bit more than $10 million annually. Nick Claxton got $10 million annually, right? Now, obviously, these are players that I would consider better than Drummond, but they're also only going to be playing the same amount of minutes as Drummond would be playing as well. So there's that argument. Now, this is the main argument I'm going to have for why this could potentially be positive. So right now, I'm just looking at the Philly line for last season. As we know, Drummond played backup to Embiid last season, and as you can see, he averaged 18 minutes a game. So that's kind of, I actually expect him to be like 60 minutes a game for this Bulls team, so even lower. But let's just take Drummond's stat line from his time with Philly, not his time with Brooklyn when he was starting. His time with Philly as a backup center. Let's just take his stat line. He 6 points, almost 9 rebounds, a block and a steal. Okay, let's just for now just focus on the points and the rebounds. So 6 points. I'm going to round down, or not round, it's not even rounded, but I'm just going to go down and say 8 rebounds, okay? Let's just take that. 6 points and 8 rebounds, right? Now, let's move over to Gallinari, who is rumored to, for the Bulls, are also interested in Gallinari, and they're going to probably use the rest of the mid-level exception, however much they're willing to spend with the mid-level exception to get Gallinari. Now, I'm actually pretty high in this Gallinari deal if it does happen because this Bulls team desperately needs shooting. And Gallinari 100% provides that. They also need more size, and Gallinari's a 6'10" dude. Obviously, he has defensive concerns. He's also 34, and I'm aware of that. But I think we kind of have to understand that this Bulls team shot 28% in that from three-point line in that Bucks series, and that's a serious issue that needs to be addressed. So Gallinari helps address that. So let's look at Gallinari's stat line. He also was mostly a bench player this past season. Now, I don't expect him to get 25 minutes per game, so let's just say it's about 20 minutes per game, okay? And I'm going to take a little bit off of his averages. So let's just say 11 points, and I'm going to go down to 4 rebounds, all right? And I expect him to shoot at the bare minimum 37% from three-point range, okay? As I do think he's a pretty decent shooter. You combine that with Drummond, right? So 11 points plus Drummond 6 points, okay? And you combine the rebounds, Drummond's 8 and Gallinari's 4, and also Gallinari's 3-point percentage, which is, I'm going to just say 37% because I'm just rounding it down here. Then technically the Bulls used their mid-level exception for 17 points, 12 rebounds, and a 37% three-point shooter. Because you see teams, they're spending the whole mid-level on one player, like a PJ Tucker, for example, who only averages a very few amount of points and doesn't really rebound that much, but he's a phenomenal defender. That's one guy, right? I think the Bulls are looking to really add depth to this roster because we saw, backup or Lonzo go down, backup point guard and Caruso went down, and we're at our third string already. And once those two guys went out, or when Vucevic came out of the game, center position was awful. And obviously, we lost some defenders in Lonzo and Caruso. So the Bulls, I think, are really stressing depth here. So they're not investing the whole mid-level exception into one player. But if both these guys can stay healthy, which is also a health concern is for Gallinari, but he did play 66 games last season, so I give him credit for that. If they do stay healthy, then, according to the averages, right, I'll even round down to 10 points for Gallinari. 16 points, 12 rebounds, a 37% three-point shooter from that mid-level exception. So that's the only argument that is kind of keeping me sane right now for this. Because I like the Gallinari deal. I do think Gallinari can definitely help this Bulls team immediately, and he also played under Billy Donovan in OKC. But this Drummond deal, I'm not the biggest fan of. For multiple reasons. One, obviously this, because it takes out of the mid-level exception, but Drummond just wasn't my guy that I was looking at as the backup center for this upcoming season. But, it is AK. I know a lot of people are really flaming AK, but I will say that I think we need to stop that right now because I'm going to tell you, GuardPax doesn't know what to do with the mid-level exception, as we saw many times. So I think AK and the hate that he's getting is uncalled for. But I do think it is fair to criticize some moves by AK, specifically, using the biannual exception for Tristan Thompson, that was a horrible deal. But at the end of the day, I do think he is looking to really aggressively address needs for this team. And with Drummond, you address the backup center position, rebounding, and obviously size. So you got depth, you got rebounding and size. And with Gallinari, you got size, three-point shooting, spacing the floor, obviously, and potentially, a fourth scorer on this team maybe. So, he is aggressively addressing parts of this team that need to be addressed. Obviously, there are holes still that need to be addressed, right? We need a rim protector, which I'm hoping this Bulls team is really considering trading for some sort of rim protection. One guy I'm looking at, it would be a pipe dream here, but Brandon Clark, and the reason why is because he fits into that traded player exception with Daniel Tice, which is just staring at us right now, and I don't know if the Bulls are going to use it. So if the Bulls do end up trading for rim protection, I'll be very fine with what they do at the mid-level exception, and then I'll be very fine with the Drummond deal. But if this is it, I'm gonna be pretty upset because this wasn't in my playbook, at least. Again, I like the Gallinari deal. I actually like it a lot more than other people, but this isn't making me too happy currently. So that's all I have for you guys in this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.